near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves.
Welcome all you Minties, I am Domovex, and today we're going to be doing an overview of the DC Finest Batman Year 1 and 2 trade paperbacks. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am, of course, Domovex, comicreleases.com assistant editor, and today I am doing an advanced overview of the DC Finest Batman Year 1 and 2 trade paperback. But, of course, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you're brand new so you can see more of these DC Finest trade paperback overviews. I am going to be doing these on the channel from now on. I also did a Superman the First Superhero video, so if you're done watching this or are interested in seeing my overview for Superman the First Superhero, I urge you to check that out. I love that these both came out on the same week, the first week of November. Nonetheless, very, very exciting stuff. If you are a DC fan, you are in a really good place at this time. So Batman Year 1 and Year 2 is, of course, here's a front look of the main cover. DC Finest Year 1 and Year 2. Frank Miller, Mike W. Barr, David Mazzucchelli, and Alan Davis, of course, all getting the spotlight for this. Another thing that I love that they're doing now is they're putting the DC Bullet logo on all of the books, not just the single issues, but are also starting to do this for their regular books. If you guys haven't noticed from DC Comics in and of itself, they actually started to use the DC Bullet logo for some of, or all of their single issues as well. Specifically for the All-In initiative, they have decided to put the logo back, the original Bullet logo back as quickly as possible so that they could launch the brand new books as well as continuing titles like Green Lantern under the DC logo and spine. Of course, All In being this amazing flip book. Maybe I'll do an overview of it on this channel. Who knows? One thing I really appreciate, we got the news from SDCC. James Gunn made it official, and every single DC project from now on will, of course, have the classic Bullet logo that they used from 76 to 85. So I'm glad that that is back in its full propensity. Let's look at the spine of the book, the years 1986 to 1987, I should say. So 1986 to 1987 Batman with the DC Bullet logo on the side as well, with the DC Finest up on top. Here's a look at this in regards to, or I should say against, the DC Finest Superman the First Superhero book. You can notice that the logos are a little bit different, and by a little bit different I mean the size is different. The Bullet logo is going to be smaller for the smaller trade paperbacks. Even though these are about the same size, they're roughly within the margin of 550, or I should say 500 pages to 650 pages, so somewhere within the margins of that. So unfortunately, with the way the design goes, typically these books are, because they have the circular logo, they don't have the rectangular logo. They're not going to be as big or as small on some of these books as they can. Of course, the spine designs there as well. And on the back, here's a look at the blurb. And again, the same blurb is on each of these books presenting DC Finest stories. Although I will say the differences here are also kind of apparent. Presenting DC Finest stories and presenting DC Finest stories are, one's white, this is Superman, and one's yellow for Batman. The bolded blurb is white here on the back, and the bolded blurb on Superman is yellow. So they flip-flopped a little bit there, but that shouldn't be too big of an issue. I think for those of you guys who are considering purchasing these or are planning on purchasing these anyways. We talked about this a little bit in the Mark Waid DC launch stream that we had yesterday afternoon. If you can tell, I don't know if the glare is apparent, but they do put out all of the years in and of itself. But the thing is, there were no Batman comics in 1938. You can see there. There were no Batman comics in 1938, and these are highlighted from 1986 to 1987. So that is highlighted in there throughout. But the thing is, you're going to have some characters, for example, the Teen Titans. Teen Titans were definitely not a thing in these years prior. So it's going to be a lot different for some of these books. Wade has brought it to, or is planning to bring it to DC's attention. Just a quick notice and of they're out. Here is the back solicitation information, or I should say the premise of what you are going to be getting in The Dark Knight Begins. This volume is going to collect Batman 401 to 412, Batman Annual number 11, and Detective Comics 568 to 579. All right, let's go ahead and take a dive into Batman Year 1 and Year 2 trade paperback for DC Finest. There, of course, is the wonderful illustration by Alan Davis. Dave Mazzucchelli, of course, being the front cover artist to the start of what is, in my opinion, the greatest Batman story ever. And, of course, Batman created by Bill Finger, Bob Kane. Here's a look at the copyright material information. Dennis O'Neil, I want to say that he's the greatest Batman creator of all time. By creator, I just mean overall. I'm not talking about specific writer, artist. I'm talking about, if you want to talk about the span of who did what for Batman, Dennis O'Neil, from his work with Neil Adams to being the Batman group editor for so many decades, is, I think, the single-handedly most influential force on the character that we've ever had anyways. I probably will die on that hill. There are some people out there who are Frank Miller truthers who would probably think otherwise, and I would also tend to agree with them. I don't think there's really a right answer. We just have so many amazing Batman stories. Of course, Reza Lockman as the editor. We talked about him in the Superman Collected Edition trade paperback department. And now let's look at the table of contents. We got, once again, page counts. And the great thing about these, page counts as well. So right there you can see on the bottom, you flip through. DC has done a terrific job with that as well. So right there you can see already from the bat, they are doing this in collected edition, or I should say single issue release order. Batman 401, 568. So this is as if you were in the 1980s and you were reading Batman on the shelves. You are reading this in real time along with the readers, and I find that so cool. So cool that they were able to lay all of these out in the way that they did. You have Year 2 at the end. You have all the Batman issues in sequential order. You have all the detective issues coinciding along with this, which I think makes up for a wonderful experience. Now, what I am going to be talking about in this book is not Year 1. I think Year 1 has been covered to death, and I want to be able to highlight some of the other stories in here that aren't Year 1 and Year 2 that I think need to be highlighted for DC. I think Omar has done a pretty tremendous job of being able to overlay information to you guys in specific regards to those two stories, and I think everything has pretty much been said about those two. Even Mark Waid, like when we were talking with him yesterday, I'm recording this on the Tuesday morning, or very early morning, I should say. Right before Election Day too, or during Election Day. I think that he did a pretty tremendous job of saying how people were feeling at the time, reading these comics, reading the Revolutionary Year 1 in and out, and Dark Knight Returns in and out. So I think it's very important to highlight some of the other stories that haven't been as talked about in here. Joey Cavalieri and Barbara Randall also do issues in here. I will say that a lot of these stories tend to be overlooked, not in case in the part that they aren't great. It's just that Year 1 and Year 2 were so massively influential. Of course, the former of those being the more influential of the two, that I think the other stories get to be glossed around in here to a greater extent. And that's unfortunate because I think some of the best stories in here are the ones that aren't just Barrs or Millers. And we can talk about all those all that we want, but I think one thing that this specific issue or this specific volume highlights is the first appearances of Jason Todd post-Crisis. Batman didn't really have a tonal difference as far as the character was concerned. He was already headed down towards a dark path. And of course we see that with every single comic book writer's response to what the Ronald Reagan administration was like in the 80s. And you can see that in Year One and also Dark Knight Returns, right? This disillusion of the state being something that you have to trust in and out. There's disdain for corrupt cops. Batman, of course, having only one good partner in the GCPD. And I think it's actually highlighted by a lot of these stories that feature Jason Todd as Robin. Jason, I think, is the most influential part of this book as far as the direction that Batman is going to be going in the future. Just sort of seeing this scrappy young boy who steals this guy's tires, unfortunately. And he's suiting up for war. So you get to see that from the lens of two writers, right? You get to see that from the lens of Mike W. Barr. Mike W. Barr, Detective Comics, with maybe the exclusion of Year Two, because I'm not as big of a fan of that story as Omar is. Although, there were some parts of it that were fun. I will say that he just does not get enough credit. Anyone gets enough credit. But I could see, again, this is me as a new reader, right? For some of these stories, I could see why Jason wasn't as big of a hit with readers as big as Dick Grayson was. If Dick Grayson was the knight in shining eye, this guy who looks at the world in a much more optimistic spot than Bruce, this complete dichotomy of an opposite, where you have Bruce as the dark brooding dad, you have Jason Todd now sort of echoing a lot of that same sentiment. I also have to add, along with Jason Todd being highlighted as Robin as one of the mainstays for this book, there are a lot of other characters who show up too that are pretty important here as well. We get to see a lot of this post-crisis development that Batman had right after to figure out where was this character spot. Year One wasn't until 3 issues right after Jim Starlin had gotten off the book, and it was, wow, like, we are going to completely revolutionize the title. But that meant what was going to be Catwoman's identity in a post-crisis world? What was going to be the Joker's identity in the post-crisis world? What was going to be the Penguin's role in the post-crisis world? We get to see a lot of these answers sort of resolved here, just to see how crazy these stories could be. But a lot of them end up being incredibly heartwarming. I found the Mike W. Barr, Alan Davis issue 570 of Joker and Catwoman and their shenanigans being one of the most fun rides I had in this book as far as a one-off's concerned, but also one of the most touching. One thing I love more than anything in these superhero books are when superheroes are actually displayed as superheroes, when it's not just the chance of we're just gonna wreck the whole town, we're gonna wreck whatever villains are facing, which is all cool and dandy. Give me some of those superheroes or saving innocent live moments. I get a ton of these with Batman, and which makes me wonder how people can love a Batman who doesn't care about... I know that there are alternate takes on the character, but those moments just make me jump up and down so much, because I know that these are guys who not only, yes, want to stop the bad guy, they also want to prevent all of this from happening. It really comes down to the fact of, again, the stuff that Miller really delved into in Year One, the mission and what Batman was really about. Batman doesn't want to see the same thing that happened to him happen to anybody else in Gotham. He can't let that happen. And we get to see that all unfold in this as well. And by the way, wonderful pencils not only just from Mazzucchelli and Davis. Dennis Cowan also is featured in a decent number of these issues. Paul Neary on the inks with Alan Davis. There is a lot of really good art in here that I think it's, again, no discredit for Dave Mazzucchelli, who I consider one of the greatest artists of all time. But I think it's a discredit to say that there weren't other people on this book who just made this title so much more interesting. Classic Scarecrow, classic 80s Scarecrow. A lot of really good facial expressions from Alan Davis. it really is a book that highlights everything that I love about Batman. And some things that just, again, you don't get to see often, and it's the first time we're finally getting this all collected in print. And once again, for those wondering, I'm not going to be covering year one. I think you guys should read that on your own. It's excellent, and it's been covered to death. But it's all in here. It's all folded out. It's all beautiful. One thing I will say for year one has the original colors, which I find absolutely spectacular. They replaced the credit pages with these, with art, and of course the storyteller is there on the left-hand side. So there's no issue there. My issue, I wouldn't really say issue. I think it's more of a nuisance. A nuisance and a nitpick, but congratulations to them for this anyways. They use the deluxe edition, the rescans for year two. So year two has the brand new colors, and that just might be because DC has these files readily available. And again, for $40, you're not asking for Toshin level material. You're not asking for that type of reprinted material and remastered material. I mean, for $40, you are getting what you are getting, which I think should be even more of a compliment than a nuisance. I think at that point, I know that some people are going to be up in arms about it, because now it's going to be the question of what colors are they going to use for the original Killing Joke story in the next volume in a couple of months to come out. I will hopefully have those answers as soon as possible for you on this channel, so stay tuned. But again, for those wondering, we didn't get a chance to... I don't think Omar had a chance to cover it. And there you see, again, the credits pages there on the left-hand side instead of having the credits pages in the middle. It is something, I think, if you are a real aficionado of, I got to get everything in the originals, unfortunately, you're not going to get that experience here. It doesn't just have that same... It doesn't have that same pop, whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't have the original colors. I will also add, this does have the Dick Grayson officially leaving his Robin story as well. Max Collins, I swear on my life, I don't think I've ever enjoyed as many issues of this as I thought I would, but he ended up being the steal of the show for me in this title. You get to see Dick Grayson come to grips with being Robin. You get to see Jason Todd growing into the Robin mantra as well. There's just a lot more than the year one and year two sells. But I haven't read a Collins story that I haven't been impressed by. And of course, the supplying art by Dave Cockrum, I think, just makes it all the more better. And me being used to Dave Cockrum on titles like X-Men, titles like Legion of Superheroes, I guess for lack of a better case in terms. I'm trying to think of other Cockrum stuff that I recognize his name from. It's fantastic stuff. And of course, there are going to be a lot of spoilers in here. You get to see Jason Todd's ties in with Two-Face. You get to see Two-Face being a major player for Batman, and again, setting the stage up for what will be the next 40 years of his publication history. This is a treasure trove of everything that you could want. If you are a Batman fan and you are on the fence and you're thinking, maybe I don't need to have all these stories in print, you have to. I think that this is not only a great treasure book to see what the response at the time was in the heat of the second term of the Reagan administration, because a lot of these stories are very much aligned that way. Not even just year one and Dark Knight Returns, but quite literally all of these stories. But you also get the heartfelt moments, you get the warm moments. You really get to see what makes Batman Batman. And again, consider me impressed. I don't think I've ever had a more eye-opening moment than really just branching out to see what comics were. Not just the stories that we know about, not just the people and the characters and the creators that we know about, but all the ones that we don't talk about. And I think that is why you should pick up this title for yourself. And that, as they say, and I also will mention, it's the same as the Superman, and that, as they say, is that. Now, to pick up this specific DC Finest title, you can check out our sponsors. That's going to be it for me. I am Dom of X. Let me know in the comment section if you're going to be picking either this up or Superman.
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
And that's going to be it from me, folks. I am Dom of X, and signing out as always, you be you. Take care and dominate the day wherever you go. Stay fresh, Minties.